Can I have all the speakers join me up here, perhaps? And while they are joining us, I'm going to move immediately to the questions that are associated with this panel. So, if you could all be prepared to answer these to help out the conference. The first one is, from your point of view, which one of these three aspects is the most important for the construction of identities? So for yourself, a link with my own history, a connection with my neighborhood and with the people around me, or an environment that makes me happy and keeps me healthy. And the second question is an open-ended question. What other aspects are important for you? So if you could take some time to answer that, but I'm going to, I don't want to lose any more time. I'd like to open our discussion because I know that Wolfgang must leave us very shortly. So we've got some questions already coming up there. If I may just ask one to start off with. Culture, the concept of culture underpins the philosophy of Baukultur. And I'm wondering, for the three of you who are dealing with notions of identity, what is culture? And ultimately, whose culture are we talking about and whose city are we addressing?
Well, as an anthropologist, I would say culture is doing, practice. And this is, I feel, a moment, a historical moment also. We have so many, we saw it, so many examples. What's possible in a technical as well as aesthetic sense with the combination of ideas, experiences, and, well, new IT techniques. But the other side is how to, so to speak, collaborate between those labs and specialists and experts, and on the other side, this new urban society, which wants no longer this ritual from the last decades to say the planners and the politics coming and asking, what do you want to have? Then we have one or two discussions, and then the experts are leaving and saying, okay, we organize it. So how is it to be organized as a process of collaboration from the conceptualizing to the finishing of these architectures and words? And I would say this is the basis of identifying with a specific building or a specific place or space or urban landscape to have it. It's also mine. And I would say this is the new quality of this urban movements, initiatives. These are not only the good ones, but it's a new activity, and this means also they are taking responsibility for the whole. And how to collaborate from the side of the politics, the planners, the architectures, the administration. This is a really new and really huge job.
Well, I would fully, I mean, culture is making, this is, I think, what I also tried to show. I think it would, and that's why I would advocate for the inclusion of the digital amongst many other things, so I don't get me wrong, into a building culture. Because there is a lot, in particular with respect to, let's say, community building, etc., there is a lot going on in the digital realm. It's just what I found totally separated, clearly separated from any architectural discussion. And I think these bridges will need to be built because potentially new collaborative models and social models are also, or have also have to do also in an inclusive sense, with these digital practices, and we see it in many also kind of social development. So I'm thinking a building culture that invests into its current activities and listens to what is actually happening broader than within architecture, can become a contemporary building culture, also respecting and integrating its past, because everybody wants the past to be a part of the present. So I'm not particularly worried about this side. Yeah.
Mais, disons que moi j'ai un point de vue assez différent puisque je parle, c'est quelqu'un d'autre qui parle à travers moi quelque part, mais donc sur le plan de la culture et de qu'est-ce que la culture et la culture de qui, évidemment il y a une énorme différence entre l'époque dont j'ai parlé moi et les considérations que vous avez par exemple présentées, dans le sens où dans les travaux que j'ai présentés, il y a très peu de réflexion sur justement la culture de qui, quelque part, ça va un peu de soi. Il s'agit quelque part de redonner une certaine identité à la culture européenne. D'ailleurs, il y a des tas de publications de l'époque qui sont l'identité de la ville européenne, etc. Parce qu'on sent à cette époque-là qu'elle a été finalement menacée par un certain lissage et une certaine uniformisation. Donc on veut retrouver une certaine identité à travers ça. Mais le lien entre, la question de savoir est-ce que cette ville va parler à toutes les communautés qui sont là, est-ce que ça va être la ville de tous, c'est une question qui n'apparaît pas à cette époque-là. Donc il y a une certaine grande différence par rapport à aujourd'hui.
Okay, merci. I think we can move to a question that looks very popular up there, and I think, Matthias, it's probably for you. Did any of the digital building designs already prove to be more sustainable? And obviously sustainability is a key component of the whole Baukultur philosophy. So can you speak to sustainability in your designs and buildings?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to delineate, let's say, a digital building in the sense of the 90s or something that just looks whoopee, wasn't what I was talking about. So I think it's really the question where this kind of, let's say, the making and the digital start to come together. And there I think, yes, we see examples. It's primarily research-based at the current stage. There's not so many buildings out there that really show this, but we see examples that clearly can show and also quantify, let's say, sustainability now in a more narrow ecological sense, which primarily comes from material savings, particularly important with respect to concrete, and also from integration of functionalities. So instead of adding multiple layers of functionalities, the modernist way, you actually integrate multiple functionalities into one, for example, 3D printed component. And that is very, let's say, ecologically sustainable. Now, if we talk of sustainability in a larger sense, that's another ball game, and I would say that takes a bit more time to be integrated in the culture and into society. But I wouldn't see a reason why it wouldn't. And yeah.
Thank you. I would like to move to a question that will involve all three of you. And I think, yes, you all mainly talked about cities. And what about suburbia or the rural hinterlands? How do your ideas and the things that you explored perhaps address places outside the city?
I have no real answer, but I have to leave early, so I try to find one. This is one of the great questions, yes. What should urban culture, urbanity, and urban mentality mean, at least? I think we have a strong movement to organize urbanity not only in the centers, yes, but also in the whole urban landscape. And looking to some cities, it's working, and looking to others, it's really not working. So And this is a question of yes, participation or exclusion or whatever. And well, I feel the traditional order of the space, to say in the center of the city, the residents, the rich residents, so to speak, and at the periphery, the migrants and the others. This is not the future we should look to and organize. But how to organize experiments and experiences in the wide space. This is really something for artists, yes, to say, what about the bridge between generations? It's easier for the generation of students to think in those terms and to think in those techniques as for the normal owners of flats, and this is more my generation, yes, and houses. So to find forms, also to organize new forms of living and housing against gentrification. This is a political job, and we find the politicians have not really realized how important actually the question of fair housing and fair living is discussed in the cities. And so I would say your profession is becoming more and more politically, if you like it or not. And so I have to say goodbye.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for a fascinating paper.
Thank you.
Claudine, est-ce que vous voulez ajouter quelque chose
Mais sur la question des
banlieues?
Oui, voilà, des banlieues. Dans les projets qui m'ont occupé, notamment sur Bruxelles, sur la question de Bruxelles, mais les banlieues de Bruxelles sont plutôt des banlieues qui ont été développées plutôt pour abriter les couches plutôt aisées de la population qui ont quitté le centre-ville de Bruxelles. Et donc, dans les projets qui sont menés, notamment sur la ville, l'idée est de rendre une attractivité au centre-ville de manière à éviter le développement des banlieues, en fait. Donc, l'idée, c'est vraiment de redonner une qualité de vie au centre-ville pour faire en sorte que ces populations-là qui ont eu tendance à quitter la ville à partir du 19e et la première moitié du 20e siècle, y reviennent. Et en fait, ce qui est intéressant, bon, j'ai pas du tout pu développer ça dans ma présentation, mais c'est que la manière dont les îlots sont rénovés, c'est une manière qui veut référer à la ville ancienne, mais qui, au fait, n'y réfère pas vraiment, qui réfère à une image un peu idéalisée de la ville ancienne, qui bénéficie aussi d'une partie des qualités qu'on peut avoir à la banlieue, à savoir avoir des jardins, des espaces verts à l'intérieur des îlots, ce qui n'existait pas, au fait, à l'époque où ces îlots ont été conçus, quoi. Donc, la question de la banlieue est plutôt, dans les travaux de nouveau que j'ai étudiés, plutôt quelque chose qu'on cherche à éviter, ou en tout cas à empêcher de grandir et au profit de la ville.
Yeah, maybe at the risk of sounding like a positivist, I would say the digital is mitigating also a bit of the gap and the divide. I mean,
Could you explain that a little? Could you elaborate?
well, everyone, whether you live in suburbia or in rural areas or in the city, you have a smartphone, right? And so these technologies, we've been talking about developing countries and developed countries, etc. Actually, these technologies are very pervasive, and for the good or the bad, right? We all are critical of the digital developments, so that's why I want this to be understood well. But I think in terms of a building culture that is inclusive, I think these technologies can work locally. They can be adaptive. Even robots can be adaptive to local building materials. Just now, driven through Scotland, and I mean, there's beautiful rural areas, but as soon as industrialization kicked in, you realize how then building products are shipped everywhere, and so buildings become generic. And I think also here the digital could actually help although it's a generic technology, could actually help to develop more specific and possibly vernacular, but not in a romanticizing sense, but in a contemporary sense, approaches. That's maybe in itself a bit romantic, but I think it could actually lead to some developments like this.
Thank you. I'm conscious of the time. I'm going to steal just a couple of more minutes from you. Just ask you if there's anybody on the floor who has a burning question that you would like to ask that perhaps has not made it to the screen. Troisième question. Okay. This is evidently one for you.
Sorry about the digital.
Well, I think you've opened up lots of questions for us. Is the digital a tool? Hold on, I need to read this question. Is the digital a tool to eventually do things better? Or is the digital another culture, and I'll add altogether?
Let's say I use it as a culture. My approach to it as a culture. If you approach it as a tool, it's a tool, right? And it's a fantastic tool. So basically, digital will do what you want it to do. I think you can explore magnificent things with the digital. You can change the way you look at problems, the way you look at architecture. You can explore, that's why I mentioned kids should explore more with those technology things in different ways. So it's like the physical reality, it's a reality in itself, a bit secluded from the physical, which is what worries parents like me sometimes, but it has qualities which are here to explore. It's man-made, it's part of culture, the digital, right? And so in that sense, that's how I view it, yeah. And also, make things better is tricky, because what is better? We're back to the quality and the measurement. And measurement is difficult, as we know.
Okay, I realize that it is lunchtime, so I thank you all for attending this session. Oh, is there one more question? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Please.
It's a question on digital. Given that computers and IT change very rapidly, and my computer today can't read what I programmed into my computer in the early 2000s, how will it work when you want to do refurbishment? If the human doesn't understand the design and how it was made, how do we know that a computer in 40 years' time will be able to understand what the computer did today so that the safety or the structure of the building isn't compromised?
It's a very good question. It's a very good question, and I don't have a simple answer. It's clearly that it's important to think in the timescales of architecture, and the timescales of the digital and architecture are not aligned. That's absolutely true, so I can just congratulate you on the question. And I think there is, for example, I know people in cultural heritage that start to look into this question, actually, because it might become a topic in the future. On the other hand, we see that also the digital now starts to be, it starts to be reenacted. So early digital work starts to be reenacted now. So actually this possibility, same as we have with craftsmanship, also exists with the digital. We're just not used to the idea because we always crave the latest. So things will change in unpredictable ways.
Well, I would like to end by thanking our speakers and thanking you for attending this session and asking your questions. Thank you very much.